Okay, hi everyone, I'm Mr. L, and I'm here today with another one of those, top 10 blitzes I do. Okay, so today I'm going to do my top 10 movie sequels. Now, this is specifically the second installment in a movie franchise. So, obviously, just prequels, sequels. Just whether the second movie in that franchise is that came out. That's what I'm looking at. So, Star Wars 2 is not the second installment, per se. So, yeah, let's just get straight into this. So first of all, number 10, I've put Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Now, obviously, this is the second installment in the Star Wars franchise, which is a really long-running franchise, which has definitely taken some turns for the worse in some places. Now, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I mean, I enjoy the movies. I mean, I enjoyed Rise of Skywalker, okay? But, this movie, this is how a sequel is done. A New Hope is iconic, and this movie is just as iconic, if not more, giving us one of the most memorable moments in the series that anyone, Star Wars fan or not, could recite to you. And that is Darth Vader revealing, spoiler alert, that he's Luke's father. That comes out of nowhere, and seeing a movie where the bad guy sorta wins in this episode is a refreshing take. So, Star Wars Episode 5, that's how you do a sequel, straight in number 10. Number 9, I've put Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Right, okay, so I got into Austin Powers not too long ago. Basically, it's spoof James Bond. And this movie was funny. This is the second installment in the three movie series of Austin Powers. The title's a pun to The Spy Who Loved Me, James Bond movie. So basically, Austin Powers loses his mojo and has to go back in time to stop Dr. Evil from whatever nefarious plot he's doing. And this movie is it's so funny. Like, there's not too much plot substance, but there doesn't have to be. It's got some wacky time travel, it's got Mike Myers playing multiple characters again. It's got Mini-Me, which is it's Dr. Evil, but like exactly 1/8 his size. It's a great movie. It's so fun, and it's definitely the best in the series for me. So, as one I've watched more recently, that's going to be up there, number 9 for me for sequels. Number 8 is Shrek 2. Now let's get the bias out of the way. That one of my favorite bands, Counting Crows, did a song in this at the very start called "Accidentally in Love." So yes, that makes me like the movie a little bit more. But Shrek 2 is a really good movie, and possibly better than the original. It's got a good plot, it's got a good villain. I like the fairy godmother as a villain. It's an interesting take. It features a cover of "I Need a Hero" that's so legendary it might be better than the original. And contains some quite funny moments, including some very well-memed moments, including the 5-minute bit. So Shrek 2 is a really good movie. And possibly the best in the series. I don't know, it's pretty close with 1 and 2. 3 and 4 are considerably weaker, but they're still not bad. So Shrek 2, number 8. Number 7 is a little movie called Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls. This stars Jim Carrey as Ace Ventura. He's a pet detective. Now the first movie, Ace Ventura Pet Detective, was okay, but this movie, so much better. This movie is one I come back to every now and then because it is hilarious. It involves Ace having to go find this white bat that's supposed to settle some sort of feud between these two tribes. But it's just a really funny comedic movie. It's definitely worth a watch if you have some time, and if you can find a streaming service it's on. Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls, that's number 7 for me, yeah. Number 6, and this is one I really regret leaving off my top 10 blitz of Christmas movies, because it is a Christmas movie, more so than Die Hard, which I put in the list. But Daddy's Home 2. Daddy's Home, the first one, was a comedy involving Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg as a dad and stepdad, who sort of get into a rivalry as you'd expect. Now the second one is more of a Christmas movie, which has obviously these same two. Brings in Mel Gibson as well as Mark Wahlberg's dad figure. And we also bring in Will Ferrell's dad figure. John Lithgow, I think his name was. So we got dads and granddads. We got huge family all staying in one place together, and things go comedically wrong, but it's such a funny film. It's a great sequel, better than the first one in my opinion. Fortunately, the last installment in the series, but I would love to see another. Daddy's Home 2, number 6. Number 5, arguably one of the greatest sequels of all time, Terminator 2, Judgement Day, which is the second in a series of 6 now, which, if you ask me, might have been 4 too many. Terminator 2 takes a different approach to the first one. The first one sends Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator back in time to kill Sarah Connor. This one instead sends Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator back in time to save her son John Connor from the T-1000. And honestly, this movie, this has all the action you can need in an Arnie movie, as well as good plot, good story, and obviously the very quotable lines from Arnold, "I'll be back." So yeah, Terminator 2 Judgment Day is one of the best sequels of all time, and so number 5 for me. Number 4 is a movie that I've always loved for quite a long time, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Now, the Transformers series is a series that contains 5 movies plus a reboot, because Transformers 5 dug such a deep plot hole there was no coming back. But the second movie, if you ask me, is the peak. A lot of people would prefer the third, but I love the second one. Transformers 2 Revenge of the Fallen involves the Fallen, who's now re-risen. He's an old... He was like an old prime or something that everyone turned against after he tried to consume the sun that was in a galaxy in which a planet had life on, which was a rule that they couldn't do. You can't consume the sun's energy if there's life on a planet surrounding it. But this guy got too greedy. But the Fallen came back after Optimus Prime was, spoiler alert, killed by Megatron and Starscream. And he's come to take our sun's energy, and the machine for that happens to be inside one of the pyramids in Egypt. But this movie, it's a typical Michael Bay movie. There's action everywhere, there's fight scenes, intense property damage. It's everything you expect in a Michael Bay movie, but man, I love this movie. It's just, sure, it's a Transformers movie. It might not be like the slickest of movies, the plot might not be the thickest, but it's fun. I really enjoy it, and it's one I've loved for a long time. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, number 4 for me. Number 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, while considering if I was going to include any MCU movies, for the fact that it's kind of all just an ongoing series of sequel after sequel, the Guardians movies do a pretty good job of standing alone for the most part. The first one still had some ties, as it had the Power Stone, but the second movie had pretty much no ties to the rest of the MCU. So I figured I'd include it. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is an amazing movie. The soundtrack is great for one thing. The casting is also amazing. We have Chris Pratt, who's soon to be Mario in the Mario movie. Yes, we're all getting hyped about that. Dave Bautista, who I knew as Batista in the WWE. Vin Diesel as Groot, and Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon. I met Bradley Cooper once, a long time ago. So yeah, we got a great cast in this one. And with Ego the Living Planet as your main villain, I wasn't sure where things were going to go when he turned out to be Star-Lord's father, but this movie was really good. Sure, it wasn't like, oh, there's a really big bad who's obviously big bad like Thanos or Ronan the Accuser, but you've got a different dynamic with this villain because, well, it's Star-Lord's dad. And I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who played Ego the Living Planet. Kurt Russell, there you go. Kurt Russell was Ego. So yeah, Kurt Russell did a great job. Can't believe I forgot his name. So yeah, this movie is just really good. It's obviously it's in the MCU. It's got a certain like seal of quality right there. So there you go. That's my number 3. All right, number 2, The Mummy Returns. I watched all the Mummy movies recently, so I can make a rant about the horrible Tom Cruise one. And The Mummy Returns is an amazing sequel. The first movie is The Mummy, which was more of a horror-based movie involving a mummy who was risen from the dead. Now the sequel, well, let's get out of the way, the mummy is re-risen from the dead. But this time we've got a new threat, the Scorpion King. And whoever can kill the Scorpion King gets control of the army of Anubis. Is that the god of the underworld or something? And this movie involves a race between the mummy Imhotep and his crew, and Brendan Fraser's character Rick O'Connell and their crew to try and get to this temple first. So this was much more of an action-adventure movie, and oh man, I loved it. I loved the Mummy trilogy. I'm sure the third one's weaker, and we're going to ignore the Tom Cruise one that doesn't exist. It has never happened. But the first two movies, wow. This sequel is amazing. It's one of my favourites of all time, definitely. Before I go to number one, I want to throw out some honourable mentions at you. Grown Ups 2. Look, I like a good comedy, and if it's got Adam Sandler and Kevin James in, I cannot resist. Space Jam: A New Legacy. Okay, sue me, I like the new Space Jam movie. It's better than the original in my opinion, okay? The plot's a little bit better despite the fact that it's still really full of holes. LeBron's quite good in it, and, you know, it was a surprising like. And another honourable mention would be Pacific Rim Uprising, a sequel to one of my favourite movies of all time. Sure, the sequel wasn't anywhere near as good as the original, but it still holds a place in my heart because I will blindly love this series. So on to my number one favourite sequel in any movie franchise. Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. It took me a long time to realise this, but upon recently rewatching Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest and Outworld's End, just those two specifically, the others didn't matter as much, I realised that Dead Man's Chest has an amazing plot. It's hard for me to describe without botching it up and making it not sound as good as it is, but Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. Basically, there's the chest, and inside it is something that's said to be able to control the seas, so everyone's got some sort of stakes in getting it. Jack Sparrow wants it because he needs it to be able to save himself from the debt he owes to the main villain, Davy Jones, who is hunting him down with his Kraken. Will Turner wants it originally to free Elizabeth Swann from jail, but later on to free his father from Davy Jones's crew. Lord Cutler Beckett, our secondary antagonist in this movie and primary antagonist in the next movie, wants it just to be able to control the seas and try and end piracy because he's with the East Indian Trading Company. He's kind of like the more political evil. And Davy Jones wants it because, well, his heart is in the box and he doesn't want to die, which is understandable, really. And Elizabeth Swann wants it to be able to free her father from custody as well. So all five of them have stakes in this, which makes this an interesting development. Now, let's not ignore the amazing soundtrack by Hans Zimmer. Great job. But okay, I want to get on to Davy Jones here. He's a great villain. Backstory's there. He's a sympathetic villain. That's there. Great theme, by the way. And he just has this sort of villain presence on his ship that makes him seem like this formidable foe. And the way they treat him in the next movie of having him controlled by Beckett, who ultimately in the end does get the heart, is a really interesting dynamic. You have this powerful figure just being controlled by this regular mortal man. But Davy Jones, his design's amazing. His CGI still holds up today, and this movie's almost as old as I am. So overall, this movie, so good. So that's my number one movie sequel. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything I missed, be sure to let me know in the comments section below. Let me know, and also let me know if there's any other top 10 lists you want me to do. Until then, thanks for watching, and ciao.